I would be bad at almost every single subject in school. It would be almost embarrassing being there, bottom 3 in every subject. But I knew how to draw. We would receive assignments from the teacher, write a full page about a public figure, and I would write 2 sentences and draw the head instead. I was lucky enough to have a good teacher who would comment on it, would bring it up to class, say, look at this drawing that Henrik made. I think it had a massive impact in my decision making of becoming an artist. Instead of feeling like a complete failure all the time in school, I would get this one little moment to shine. So I grew up in a small city in Norway called Asker, surrounded by beauty and nature, but I love the big city as well. Wanted to move to Barcelona, spend some years there, moved to Mexico City, back to Florence, and now I'm lucky enough to call London my home. I've always been incredibly appreciative of classical representational work and the techniques, the skill sets that people way back had. Always been part of my process of painting. It's not until later years where I've been able to really appreciate the more expressive side of art, things that are not necessarily pristine and perfect, but it's loaded with emotions. It's shaped the way that I think about other people's art, how I think about my own art, how I express myself. I'm in this funny cross between more classical realism and maybe expressionism or something completely different. So essentially with this show, I've been wanting to deal with my problems head on. I've always been sentimental. I've always been someone to dwell on the past. Been fascinated by memory for the longest time. I think it has to do with living today in this society at this time. Been wanting to talk about memory. This understated force or ability that constantly reshapes and shapes your brain and your identity is fascinating to me. I think everyone, when they look back on the past, they look at it and think that those were the days, smoothing over all the bad parts, all the bad moments. But for me, memory has always been not a touchy subject, but it's always been a subject that gets me emotional. I think one of my biggest fears in life is waking up a day and looking back at my life, feeling that I didn't do enough, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. This regret. I want people to think and reflect upon memory and their history in order for them to make the right decisions for the future. It's always a bit of a funny situation where I'm hit by this panic immediately, just first of all because it's so much work going into it. Also, I've always been very good at avoiding certain situations in my life. This is one of those situations where I know it's necessary for me to progress in life, but putting myself in that situation is painful. It's like going to a therapy session. Nobody likes it. It's not enjoyable, but it might bring you past something. The process of painting for me is maybe more important for me than the results. There's probably less excitement for me to pick up that brush. It's more about the fact that I need to pick up that brush. I need to get this off my chest. I want people to immediately look at the paintings and think this is a beautiful dream or a beautiful vision of the past, but then gradually realizing that there's something behind this, something not so pleasant, something hidden in the background that suddenly evokes other feelings of discomfort. I've been wanting to work with this wonderful, rosy, pleasing white-pink backgrounds, but when you zoom in on it, it's filled with these gloopy, uncomfortably large lumps of paint. I am honored to be represented by a gallery of this scale. The fact that he trusts me to bring this kind of work it's mind-boggling. When I started out painting, people did tell me that this is not something that most people would want on their walls. This is a bit too this, a bit too that, too dark, too grotesque, but it's what I needed to create. And now the fact that I can live off it and I can show in this prestigious gallery and have people coming from other countries to see the work is incredible.